You feel it, don't you? That quiet shift beneath your life. As if something invisible has gently nudged your soul while everything around you still looks the same. You're moving, not just geographically, not just from one job to another or from one season of life into the next. You're moving internally. There is a relocation happening in the unseen. An internal exodus from limitation into vision. Angels, if they speak at all, don't use thunder or lightning. They speak through closed doors. They speak through discomfort that no longer lets you stay where you are. They speak through the sense that something once meaningful is now hollow. That's how heaven nudges a person. Not by shouting, but by emptying what no longer fits. And now, you're moving. What does the place you're going to look like? It is not paved with gold, nor painted with colors you've never seen. It is ordinary, simple, but radiant with peace. It looks like a life where you wake up and don't dread the morning. It looks like laughter returning to your mouth, not forced, but full. It looks like relationships that don't drain you, but deepen you. It looks like decisions made without shaking hands. It looks like finally liking the person staring back in the mirror. You're not moving to a location, you're moving to a condition of the soul. And yes, it will cost you. All real moves do. You will leave behind more than memories. You will leave behind people who only knew the version of you that doubted everything. You will leave behind excuses you made because you were afraid of becoming responsible for joy. But the place you're going to doesn't need your fear. It needs your yes. The image of this new place, it's been there since you were a child. It's that feeling you got when someone believed in you. It's the moment you knew there was more to life than pain. It's the echo of hope you heard while crying in a room no one else knew you were in. This isn't imagination, this is memory. Deep memory. You've seen the place before. And now you're walking toward it. The angels? They didn't tell you everything because you wouldn't have believed them. But they showed you enough to start moving. And that's all you need. One step, one act of obedience, one moment of courage in the dark. And as you keep moving, the picture will get clearer. The colors will come into focus, the shape will form, and suddenly what once seemed far off will be your everyday. Don't look for signs in the sky. Look for the shift in your own heart. Don't wait for loud instructions. Respond to the quiet pull within. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. You're not being rejected. You're being redirected. You're not being left behind. You're being led ahead. This is the picture of the place you're moving to. Peace that doesn't rely on the outcome. Purpose that doesn't disappear when people walk away. Joy that isn't borrowed but built from within. A life no longer surviving but living. So, walk on, even if it's hard, even if it's unclear. You don't need to understand the whole map. You only need to trust the voice that whispered, "It's time." When people hear the word move, they picture boxes, trucks, shifting addresses. They think of changing places. But the angels never meant for you to pack a suitcase. They meant for you to unpack yourself. The real movement isn't from one street to another, it's from fear to freedom, from confusion to clarity, from surviving life to living it fully. This transition doesn't show up on GPS. You can't map it or predict it like the weather, but you can feel it. It begins with an unease, a subtle friction between who you are and who you are becoming. The clothes of your old life no longer fit, though you still wear them out of habit. The conversations feel rehearsed, the routines seem mechanical. The soul, once quiet, begins to stir. That stirring is not a disturbance, it's the beginning of motion. And the angels? They're not lighting your path with neon signs. They're not announcing your arrival with trumpets. They are guiding you by aligning your inner world with divine timing. What looks like delay is preparation. What feels like loss is pruning. They are shifting things not just around you, But inside you, you'll begin to realize that something about your environment no longer supports your spirit. The places you used to enjoy feel hollow. The people who once energized you now leave you tired. The words you once clung to start to lose their flavor. This is not random. This is sacred. Heaven is not trying to push you away from the world. It is pulling you deeper into your calling. You may try to resist it. We all do it first. We try to make what's familiar feel fulfilling. But when you've outgrown a space, no amount of repainting the walls will make it right. The soul, once awakened, cannot be lulled back to sleep. Something within you demands expansion, and that expansion starts with surrender. Movement, in this sense, is not about changing scenery. It's about changing state. It's about becoming uncomfortable with what is no longer aligned with your purpose. The angels aren't giving you a new life. They're asking you to step into the one you are always meant to live. And that life begins not when you arrive, but when you respond. That stirring inside you, the quiet dissatisfaction, the restlessness, the yearning, is a message. It says you're no longer meant to stay here, not because where you are is bad, but because who you're becoming cannot be contained by where you've been. And the place you're moving to, it doesn't begin with an external shift. It begins with a choice. To let go, to stop managing your pain and start listening to your purpose, to stop defending your limitations and start walking toward your liberation. Spiritual movement requires that you leave behind more than comfort. You must leave behind control. You don't get to carry all your assumptions into the next season. You don't get to demand certainty before you obey. Movement requires risk. It requires trust. It requires walking in the direction of your transformation, even while your feet still tremble. And the angels? They are not your chauffeurs. They are your reminders. Reminders that your life was never meant to be spent in survival mode. Reminders that divine change often begins with discomfort. Reminders that the spirit matures in motion, not stagnation. You will move, not because you're finished where you are, but because you're ready for who you must become. The shift is not about leaving something behind. It's about becoming someone new. This is not a disruption. It's a deliverance. You're not losing your place. You're being repositioned in grace, and the movement has already begun. The moment you start to move, not physically but spiritually, a strange thing begins to happen. You start to recognize pieces of the new place you're headed to. Even though you've never been there before, there's something hauntingly familiar about it. The peace it promises reminds you of the silence you felt as a child while watching the wind move the trees. The joy you imagine feels like the kind you used to know, before life got heavy and people taught you to lower your expectations. The place you're being called to is not alien, it's ancient, and it has lived inside you all along. There are pictures within the soul, portraits not painted by human hands, but etched by eternal desire. These are not fantasies or wishes. They are memories that haven't yet been lived. The life you long for, the one you're now beginning to step toward, is not being created from nothing. It is being uncovered from within. The angels did not bring a blueprint from the sky. They stirred what was buried beneath your fears. Your restlessness, your dissatisfaction, your inner hunger, they are not symptoms of disorder. They are the first signs of recognition. Your soul has seen this future before, and now it remembers. Think of it. Every time you said, "There must be more than this," you were responding to a hidden picture. Every moment you felt out of place, disconnected, or stuck, it wasn't because you were lost. It was because you were being reminded of a place that already belonged to you, though you hadn't yet arrived. The picture of the place you're going to isn't something to chase. It's something to remember. And so, this is not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to the version of you that always existed beneath the survival instincts, beneath the compromises, beneath the years of numbing routines. The real you, the unburdened, undamaged, unafraid you, has known this place all along. This is why when certain things fall apart, a strange peace follows. You panic in your mind, but something deep in your spirit whispers, "This is necessary." That whisper comes from the picture. The place you're being called to has its own gravity. And now that you've started to move, it's pulling everything toward it, including you. The picture isn't just a vision, it's a compass. It informs your choices, even when you don't know it. You're drawn to certain people, ideas, and places because they echo the image inside you. You feel alive when you speak the truth, not because it's noble, but because truth is the language of the place you belong to. You feel anxious when you betray your values, not because you're guilty, but because your soul knows you're moving away from the picture. The mistake we often make is thinking that the picture has to be shown to us in full before we begin the journey. But that's not how spiritual movement works. You don't get the full map, you get glimpses, feelings, nudges, impressions. And that's enough. Because the picture is not external, it's in you. The more you walk, the clearer it becomes. This is why you must pay attention to what makes you feel deeply alive. The work that doesn't drain you, the environments where you breathe easier, the people who don't require you to shrink. These are clues. These are pieces of the picture coming into focus. You'll also notice that old desires begin to fall away, not because they were evil, but because they were incomplete. They were shadows of the real thing. The closer you move to the true image inside you, the less interested you become in distraction. The clearer the picture gets, the less you need external validation. You no longer chase approval, you pursue alignment. And it's not just about what the place looks like, it's about how it feels. It feels like peace without performance. It feels like purpose without pressure. It feels like home, not the one you grew up in, but the one you were born to build. You are not inventing this life, you are rediscovering it. It was whispered to you in your dreams, sung to you in your childhood prayers, and hidden in your heart during your hardest seasons. Now that you've started to move, the picture will speak louder, not in words, but in resonance. You'll know you're getting close when you stop asking for signs and start sensing direction. You'll know you're aligned when decisions stop feeling like dilemmas and start feeling like doors. The image was never lost, you were just buried in the noise. But the angels knew, and they waited, and now the picture is returning. Once the picture inside your soul begins to reappear, the world around you doesn't stay quiet. Something begins to move beneath the surface of your daily life. But it doesn't move with force or fury. It moves with subtlety, like a quiet breeze before the storm. Angels do not knock down walls or shout from mountaintops. They speak in the vocabulary of transition, and the language they use is change. You won't always recognize it as divine communication. In fact, at first, you might call it frustration. Something that once fulfilled you will begin to feel empty. A friendship that once felt comforting now feels like a weight. A job that once made sense suddenly feels hollow. This isn't confusion, it's conversation. The angels are speaking, not to your ears, but to your alignment. Change as it begins is often disguised as discomfort. The soul, when it's being summoned, does not shout. It tugs, gently, repeatedly, until staying where you are becomes more painful than facing what's ahead. You won't see feathers falling from the sky. You'll notice habits breaking without explanation. You'll find yourself waking up earlier, drawn to silence. You'll begin craving solitude, not as an escape, but as preparation. Every closed door is not a rejection. Some are instructions. When something no longer opens for you, it is not always because you did something wrong. It's because you're being moved. Moved from where you've been into what you were made for. Angels do not argue with our preferences. They bypass them and begin realignment. You will lose things, not everything, but enough to feel the shift. You will lose the appetite for gossip. You will lose the tolerance for being misunderstood. You will lose the desire to pretend. These losses are sacred. They are not setbacks. They are signs. The old version of you cannot cross into the picture that now calls you forward. Change is not random. Heaven never improvises. There is design in the way things unravel. If you look closely, you will see the pattern. The people leaving your life are not mistakes. The pauses in your plans are not failures. The delays are not dead ends. They are edits to your story. The divine does not destroy, it redirects. And while the world may not see what's happening, you will. Because every change, even the smallest one, begins to sound familiar. You'll hear something deep inside say, "This feels like movement." Not the kind that runs, but the kind that rises. It's a quiet unfolding. The curtain is being pulled back, not in front of your eyes, but behind them. You'll know the angels are near, not when everything goes right, but when the things that no longer serve you start to fall away. You'll know they're close when comfort turns to restlessness and every safe place becomes too small. They do not push you forward. They remove what keeps you stagnant. Their whispers won't always come in words. They may come through someone's unexpected honesty. Through a rejection you didn't ask for but desperately needed. Through a book, a moment, a song that stops you in your tracks. Through the random conversation that plants a seed in your spirit. These are not accidents, they are announcements. Divine ones, the whispers become stronger when you stop arguing with the change. When you stop begging the old to stay and instead begin to walk with the new. Resistance makes the process feel like suffering. Surrender makes it feel like a birth. You were never meant to wrestle with the shift. You were meant to flow with it. And the more you listen, the more fluent you become in the language of heaven. You begin to interpret endings not as punishments but as portals. You begin to see loss as a clearing. You begin to experience confusion as the space where the old mind dies, so the new vision can be born. It won't all make sense, but it will all make movement. There will be seasons where everything falls apart and you still feel held. There will be days where you cry and still feel guided. That's how you'll know. The angels are not fixing your world. They're freeing your soul. So don't fear the changes. Don't rush to fix what's falling. Don't chase what's leaving. Listen, watch, discern. The picture you carry is now aligning with the world around you. The whisper is becoming a wind, and soon the wind will carry you where your soul already belongs. You don't always realize you've been moved until something breaks. The room you once felt safe in becomes heavy. The conversations you once enjoyed start to feel forced. The plan you held tightly to begins to unravel in your hands. And in that moment, panic wants to take over. You assume something has gone wrong, but the angels have not made a mistake. They have made a shift. What you call disruption, they call direction. The picture within your soul, the one you've begun to remember, cannot come to life if you remain surrounded by what is too small to contain it. So things are shaken, not out of cruelty, but out of alignment. Something must fall for something deeper to rise. And so it does. Not always violently, but certainly the job opportunity you were banking on disappears. The relationship you thought was permanent begins to fade. The place you once called home no longer speaks peace to your heart. This is not a breakdown. It's the clearing of a path. In the earlier keynotes, we spoke of movement, then of the picture, then of the whisper. Now the whisper becomes a wave, and the wave begins to disturb the waters around you. You feel unsteady, and rightly so, but here is the sacred truth. That wave is not meant to drown you, it's meant to deliver you, to carry you to a destination your logic cannot plan for, but your soul already expects. You're not being punished when life feels like it's coming apart, you're being prepared. Angels rarely send announcements that change is coming. They send change. And change comes dressed like interruption. It doesn't knock, it enters. Not always politely, but always on time. And if your heart is too attached to what's predictable, you'll see divine redirection as disaster. Look deeper. Behind the closed door is a new one forming. Behind the relationship ending is space for the one that will actually water your spirit. Behind the quiet season is the voice of heaven, teaching you how to hear without noise. This is not destruction, this is construction of a life that fits who you're becoming. You might ask, why does it have to be so hard? But the truth is, transformation doesn't happen in ease. It happens in tension. The soil has to break for the seed to grow. The sky has to crack open for the rain to fall. The soul has to be disturbed for purpose to surface. Heaven loves you too much to let you sleep through your calling. So the angels begin to disrupt what you've settled for, not to harm you, but to wake you up, to move you out of what is convenient and into what is consecrated. You were never meant to build your life around comfort. You were meant to build it around calling. And calling is always bigger than the place you're in. The confusion you feel is not failure, it's friction. Your old patterns are meeting your new direction. The identity you've carried for years is being peeled back to reveal who you really are, beneath the expectations, the roles, the masks. That peeling hurts, but it heals. The shell must crack for the life inside to breathe. And here's something else you'll notice. What used to satisfy no longer does. Not because those things were wrong, but because you've grown. The food that fed you in one season cannot nourish you in the next. You're evolving. And evolution requires exit. Not from everything, but from anything that keeps you smaller than your design. You are not losing your mind, you are gaining new sight. What you thought was ruin is actually a reroute. What felt like delay is divine timing, rearranging the landscape of your future. You do not need to fight the shift. You need only to trust it. Trust that the angels are not just protecting you from harm, but positioning you for fullness. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's confusing. But it's also holy. This is the middle of the movement, the halfway point between what was and what is becoming. Don't try to rebuild what heaven is dismantling. Let it fall. Let the old walls come down. The new room is being prepared even now. The picture is still there. The whisper is still guiding. The change is still happening. But now the road is opening. The storm is not the end. It is the signal. The direction has arrived. There is a moment in every divine transition where your spirit no longer fits the space your body still occupies. You show up, you go through the motions, but something feels off. The chair you once sat in with comfort now feels too small. The conversations that once entertained you now echo with emptiness. The schedule you once followed with joy now feels mechanical. You haven't physically moved yet, but spiritually, you're already on the way. Growth always starts in the unseen. This is how angels guide the soul. Not by forcing change from the outside, but by expanding you from within. And when the inside grows, the outside must shift. But here lies the tension. The world doesn't immediately recognize your transformation. You're still expected to respond the way you used to stay as you were, to entertain the familiar, even when your soul now hungers for the unfamiliar. This is the silent suffering of transition. You feel foreign in the place that once felt like home. The direction we spoke of earlier often begins with internal dislocation. You wake up one morning and realize you can't pretend anymore. You no longer belong in conversations that celebrate fear. You can no longer spend hours in rooms where your values are drowned out. You can no longer make peace with half-truths just to survive. This is not bitterness, it's awakening. You are not becoming arrogant, you are becoming aligned. And this alignment creates tension with the old environment. You start to notice the cracks in places you once ignored, not because those cracks weren't always there, but because now you see differently. Discernment sharpens, sensitivity heightens, your soul begins to whisper, this is no longer your size. The spiritual clothes that once fit now feel tight. The ceiling that once covered you now stifles you. This discomfort is the mercy of movement. You will outgrow the place emotionally first. Conversations will feel draining, noise will feel louder, small talk will feel unbearable. Then you'll outgrow it. Mentally, your thoughts will stretch beyond what the environment supports. You'll crave depth in shallow waters. You'll crave stillness in chaotic rooms. Then you'll outgrow it energetically. Your presence will start to feel disjointed. You'll become invisible in rooms you used to be celebrated in. This is not punishment, it's proof. You are shedding what no longer holds your future. But outgrowing doesn't mean dishonoring. The place that now feels small once gave you room to begin. And just because you're no longer meant to stay doesn't mean it wasn't sacred. Honor the seasons, but don't idolize them. What once helped you heal may now hinder your growth. You are not betraying your past by answering the pull of your future. This is why the angels begin removing your comfort before they give you clarity, because if you waited to leave only when it made perfect sense, you'd never go. So they stir your spirit first. They agitate the nest. They make what once felt easy now feel heavy, not to punish you, but to prepare you. You are being stretched before you are being sent. Others might not understand it. They'll ask, why are you pulling away? Why do you seem distant? Why are you so quiet lately? But you can't explain spiritual expansion to people who are only watching physical movement. You're not mad. You're maturing. You're not lost. You're being led. And in this place between outgrowing and leaving, you will be tempted. Tempted to shrink back just to keep the peace. Tempted to make yourself smaller so others stay comfortable. Tempted to pretend you still fit just so you don't have to face the unknown. But the angels are not calling you into comfort. They're calling you into courage. What lies ahead cannot be reached by who you used to be. And so you will have to grieve the old, even if it didn't end in disaster. Sometimes you have to say goodbye to a good thing because a greater thing is calling. Sometimes you outgrow what once was enough, not because it failed, but because you flourished. The room didn't shrink. You expanded. Do not be afraid to leave the old stage, even if the audience is still clapping. Do not stay where you no longer thrive just because it's familiar. The place you're moving to isn't waiting for perfection. It's waiting for obedience. Your soul already knows the way. And every whisper, every disruption, every broken pattern was pointing to this truth. You are no longer who you were, and now it's time to live like it.